to show people my rocks. And I thought, me too, my guy. I want to show people my little rocks too. I want someone to.
Why do you? No, no, that's the first question. Right, I was going to say, why do you
Why
think
are you
love is?
alone?
This is all shit.
In true ADHD form, I've actually forgotten what the question was.
That
Yeah.
I am literally in this very moment.
It all kind of makes sense later.
Welcome back to the One More Thing. Today I am joined by a very, very special guest. It's Becca Jane Grey. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm all about for seeing you and talking to you because we're about to drop some really special music, aren't we? We're actually working
We
together on the
sure
label.
are.
Cool.
Yeah. Very excited.
Yeah, yeah. So we are releasing Alone Again as one of the four singles that comes out ahead of Lakeway's amazing album, I've Missed the Sun. It's the second single that comes out. It's the one big kind of dubstep ballad on the album. Are you cool with it being described as a dubstep ballad? Actually, I've not said those words out aloud that many times, not for a long time anyway.
I mean, I don't think I've heard that as a combination, and yet I really love it. I think let's go with that. That's nice. That's a nice way to
Yeah.
describe it. That's exactly what it is as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting song. The position of it on the album and everything, the way that it goes from it feels like a lament to a really triumphant vibe by the end of it. I mean, one thing that we should have done, I'm really thinking about it, is that we should have released it on Valentine's Day, really, for all of the
That
people
would
who
have
aren't
been a
bothered about
good
Valentine's Day, who
point.
are alone and things like that, who aren't, wrapped up in the whole kind of Valentine's bollocks, really, because it is
Yeah.
really fundamentally. We should have released it then. It's coming out on February the 27th instead. So tell me how it came about, because you worked with Liam before anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, we've over the years we've made quite a few tunes, and obviously a lot of them are still sort of in the back end, things that I need to finish. Mainly me, it's a me problem if I'm honest, because he sends me so many things. He's so prolific as an artist, and I love working with him. So I'm always saying, "Oh, send me this, send me this," and then he does, and then suddenly I've got loads of things I need to work on. So they sort of get put by the wayside sometimes. But what I tend to find is my process, and this goes like overall, but especially with Liam, is whatever he titles a track, I do tend to run with. And God knows he sent me some weird titles. But I believe he titled this one already as Alone Again, and I kind of ran with it. So that
Right.
sort of wrote itself, I guess, as the title, as the chorus, as the main part. But I think I must have been at the time in a very fuck you kind of mood to be singing about someone whoever had pissed me off at the time, um, and their treatment of me, for me to then say, yeah, you're going to end up alone because this is what you keep doing. So it's very unsurprising. Good luck out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that kind of progression and that development within the kind of narrative of the song, really, because it's not what you expect from those kind of really solitary pianos at the start,
Mm.
really. It builds up in that way. So, was it given to you the way that we hear it now? If we imagine it without your vocals, is that how you first heard it? Or was it more of a kind of 4 bar loop and then you kind of developed it together in that way?
That is a very good question. It definitely wasn't just 4 bar loop because Liam always sends things mostly done, but he will have changed bits based on what I've sung here, what I've sung here. Maybe he would have stripped this back to give my vocal a bit more breathing room here or here, etc. Yeah, definitely not a 4 bar loop for Liam. He's almost always finished the track before he
Yeah.
lets anybody hear it, I feel. I think I've only ever had a loop from him maybe once or twice, but yeah, definitely sort of gave me the overall picture, and I find that really helps me. It makes it so much easier for me to write. It's just sort of it's presented to me as this beautiful cake that I can just ice.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So you
know?
work well in that type of well, like where you've actually got a framework to work within, and you've got some
Yeah.
parameters to work within. So you haven't just got a complete blank canvas in that sense. You've got something, you've got a concept or a theme that's kind of been given to you, and then you can play within that. And they always say like limitations really help with creativity in that way, don't they? Because it's
Mm.
giving you a
I
kind of
think
set of
so, yeah.
guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do. I find that that's something that just in general, if you're sort of given, such a good basis to just to top line something, um, can then be such an easy creative process rather than this sort of racking your brains of like, oh, what should I put there? And and that's not to say that I can't do it, but God knows I just don't prefer to work like that. I really love when something's just like, here's this tune, here's what I'm going for as well. Sometimes someone will
Yeah.
say, this is the theme. With Liam, he does let me do just whatever, which is always great. And God knows I feel when I write for his music, because it's so different to everyone else's, I tend to take things a route that maybe I wouldn't normally. If I were doing straight drum and bass, I go this way. And God knows all of my songs are very much so. I hate love. Oh, fuck it. But this one especially, I feel like I've you can kind of pour your heart out maybe a bit more easier.
Yeah.
Not sure. A bit more easily. Yeah.
Liam's kind of given you this playground to pour your heart into, and it's the one thing that's always kind of blown my mind about singers and when you're writing lyrics. Because as a writer myself, sometimes you can just be absolutely daunted by having a blank page. Sometimes you can
Yeah.
be daunted by having a brief as well, and sometimes like you
Yeah.
want to write something and the brief just isn't quite right, and you're just overthinking, and it's usually the
Mm.
first thing that you've written is usually the thing that you end up going for.
Yeah.
So what's your process like? And this is, I'm always fascinated by hearing from, we're both writers, but in very, very, very different ways. So what's
Yeah.
your process like as a writer when you're kind of
Well,
thinking of themes and lyrics and stuff like that?
hmm. I mean, it's so funny that you should say that, because just as you were talking about like being given a brief or letting having complete free reign, that then made me think of the fact that when I do our intros for DJ Mag HQ, obviously I write them, I try to write them a week in advance so I can learn them. But if it's an artist like I'm not really au fait with, so say it's if it's not a drum and bass artist and maybe I've only heard a little bit, or I'm really new to that artist, when I go away and do a bit of research or try to work out what I want to say, having that complete free reign to write anything, I either use it to be what I consider hilarious, or I end up sort of just yeah, I have like too much information, and then what do I pick? Like that can be really difficult. With songs, with singing, I almost always stick to this. I think what I know best, which is love or heartbreak, mainly lack of love. So I tend to find whatever relationship has been the most recent at the time I'm sent a track. That's what that song will be about. And again, it's almost always about how somebody's hurt me, or how something has gone wrong, or I've hurt them. I think the process for me, if we look at it just completely start to finish, is I love being sent a track. I pick out a melody that I sort of think goes, okay, this is nice. I kind of want to say this message. I do sort of that garbled gibberish thing, which you may have seen. I think quite a few singers do that. I feel like I've definitely seen Rhea do it as well. So it's good to know that I'm not alone on it. But you basically just sort of reel off noises, sounds that sound right in this place. You can then create your story around it. You make that fit. Um, and then you send it off to the producer, and he tells you that he either hates it or loves it, but no
That's
in
really
between.
interesting. So you kind of go, and yeah, I've spoken to Laura about this on a podcast as well.
Mm,
Well, you're kind of almost zooming out. So you're just giving like that rough kind of sketching, really, when you're just humming a top line or just the odd little word here and there. And then
yeah.
slowly but surely it almost comes into view for you as well. Like, so you're kind of seeing it come together with your own ears and your own eyes as you're writing it in that type of way,
Yeah,
really.
that's exactly it. Yeah. Just sort of like it all kind of makes sense later. I find you've got all your cake ingredients. I keep using the cake analogy, but you've got all your cake ingredients, and then it suddenly looks like a cake. Yay.
Yeah. Why do you think? And what I love, actually, well, what I love is the subversion of this, because instead of it being a love or a heartbreak song, it is a fuck you song. It's like you're going to end up
Hmm.
alone again. Why do you? No, no, that was the first question. Right. I was going to say, why do you
Why are
think
you
love is
alone?
why is
What's
love
wrong with
such a
you?
universal theme as for lyrics anyway? But I think I'm going to get to that first. I really like the subversion of this. So you're not kind of just playing with the same kind of narrative that has been used in songs forever. You've kind of flipped it, and it is much more of a kind of, it's a subtle fuck you song in that type of way. Why do you think, going back, why do you think love is the universal theme tune for so many songwriters?
I think because it's completely and utterly relatable, isn't it? We all, on some level, aspire to be loved. To love, yes, but to be loved is that just that ultimate human experience, isn't it? That thing that surpasses career and money and obviously those things are way important too, but we do kind of I think we all know that on our deathbeds we want to know that we've been loved. And
Yeah.
we've all gone through, again, relatable, we've all gone through some type of heartbreak in whatever fashion, but then over time, talking to your friends as well, you know that nothing is a new feeling, nothing's really a new experience. None of us have ever really had an original experience. All our stories, all our love stories at the very least, or shit love experiences are shared. So I think that's why it's so important that's why we've all kind of written about that. I guess it's why it's such a common theme,
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
relatability.
Definitely, and it's what makes them popular as well. You see, yeah, people have identify something in there that they've either gone
Mm,
through, or or that they can relate to in that type of way, really. And I
yeah,
think
for sure.
it's the connection, isn't it? We want I mean, in fact, in terms of like the kind of whole idea of being alone, is that you haven't
Mhm.
got someone to connect with, you haven't got somebody to share the beauty of life, which is sometimes quite hard to find when you're on
Yeah,
your own. Like the beauty of love is having somebody to point out something is positive when you're feeling like absolute shit. That's what love is for me, really, is being able to balance each other and stuff in that
yeah.
way, really, isn't it?
That's a lovely concept as well. I think that's massively important. I think my own personal theme, or like the tagline I've always sort of said to my friends, is I have all these ideas and all these things I want to say, and I just want to share them with someone. And I also saw an analogy ages ago on the internet, which was just this guy saying, like, showing the internet all his little rocks. He collected rocks, and he was like, I just want to show people my rocks. And I thought, me too, my guy. I want to show people my little rocks too. I want someone to lift my rocks with. Literally,
Yeah.
because you do, don't you? You want someone where you can shoot the shit. You can have all your deep conversations, but you can absolutely just shoot the shit at the end of the day. How was your day, darling? How was yours? Yet mine too. Let's order takeaway. You just kind of
Yeah.
want to share human experience, don't you?
Yeah,
With
definitely.
the
And
same
having
person.
someone, because, and I think like we feel, and especially now with like social media and the internet and everything, I think everybody just feels incredibly self-conscious all of the time. And we're always overthinking what we write, what we say, what we post.
Mm,
And for the new generation who've kind of grown up with this, like, like certainly for me in the 90s, you could be a complete mess and know that that was never going to end up online. And that's just not the case. And it
yeah.
hasn't been the case for the last 20 years, really, or anything
Yeah.
having that freedom, but then having that's what love is to me, I think, is having the
Mm,
security of being able to let it all hang out and being able to just absolutely geek out over, I don't know, like anything, and know that even if your partner isn't quite with you on that, they will let you
mm,
geek out and they will give you space to it and support it in any way.
yeah.
Be like, oh, I read this interesting article about this thing that you were nerding out about. It means nothing to me, but I know you're going to love it.
That
And
you'd love it.
yeah,
Yeah. That
having
freedom to be
somebody,
yourself, that's it. And
yeah.
to be loved while doing so.
Yeah. Because I don't
Mm,
think we are. We've almost got our two selves, really, haven't we? In that way, like our
mm,
authentic self, and then the self that we either have to be for profession or being online or anything like
mm,
that. Really, for all of the reasons of this strange kind of hyper-connected world, being
yeah.
our authentic self. certainly with other people, I think it's harder and harder, and it's finding somebody or people in terms of like love for friends as well. Like love comes in
Mm,
many different forms in that type of way, and
yeah.
support really. Love is support in that type of way, isn't it?
It really is. It's actually, sorry to interrupt, it's really funny that you should say that because I actually discussed with my last ex. We ended very amicably, but I discussed with him because it occurred to me, I, as someone who has ADHD, I started really going deep after our breakup and thinking, was I really, truly, at least the majority of the time, myself with him? And I still wonder whether I was. I was, I liked the version of myself I was with him, but I was then comparing myself to how I am with my friends and my closest of friends, who I'm my weirdest self around, and therefore my most favorite self, because I love being a little freak. It's great,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
kind of figure, but I guess those are the romantic relationships you want as well, because we are probably our most natural selves with our friends and our freakiest, weirdest, most embarrassing selves with our friends.
I'm really interested though, because I mean, essentially, you're talking about masking there. And this
Yeah.
is like, I'm fascinated with ADHD. It's
Mm.
been identified in me by a lot of people who have ADHD. I have
Yeah.
not been tested or have been diagnosed. So I feel very bad in even describing any of my traits as ADHD like, because I know how bad it is. I know people who their life is completely and utterly full of challenges because they are not able to focus on anything. They've lost all kinds of jobs and stuff like that, and it's debilitating when you have that kind of, when the fatigue hits you and you get burnout and stuff like that, and not being able to focus. I have managed to find a lifestyle and been lucky enough to have support actually from my partner when we're talking about love, to be able to be in a job where I can only relate. I'm with people I can relate to. I can't deal with the outside world. I could list a whole litany of reasons why I lost every other job I ever had before journalism. So it's highly likely that I have got ADHD, but I haven't been diagnosed with it. So I'm very, very careful with how I describe that. How long have you known about your ADHD? How did it come into your life? And how does it affect you?
Well, so literally only in June last year. And I guess
Wow.
I've sort of always known, but you don't really know, do you? That's the thing. It was only one of my friends was diagnosed with ADHD, and she, as a woman, I mean, obviously it's different for us. So I think what happened was she sort of, I remember she came over one day and we were discussing something, and she said, some of the things you say, it sounds very much so like you have ADHD as well. And that was probably the first time I thought, oh, maybe that's it. So I guess it was that sort of that tipped me off. And then I mean, not that I recommend anybody being diagnosed by TikTok, but if you go on TikTok, there's so many things that you start thinking, oh, actually, but then there are also a million things that are like, oh, I like this type of spoon, I must have ADHD. You kind of got to use your own discernment, really. But so I think even when you're saying I haven't been diagnosed, I think there is this misnomer or stigma around this idea that you can't, not that we should self-diagnose, but I think there really is this stigma around you shouldn't say that because you haven't been told by a doctor. But I wasn't told by a doctor when I thought I had it enough to go to a doctor and say, I think I have this. Do I have this? For him to then say, yes, you do. So,
Right. Wow.
I don't think we should be too hard on ourselves for thinking we have things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
No?
completely. A friend of mine has said that, a friend with cancer, and said, like, look, I'm diagnosed with cancer, but if I wasn't diagnosed by a doctor, I'd still have fucking cancer. And
And I
it's
feel
like,
like
right,
that's
okay,
such a good
wow.
point, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
that's exactly it, isn't it? You still have to have had that thought that.
Yeah. And I
So,
think, like, I was always described as neurotic, always described as
mm,
neurotic, incessant. I wouldn't let things go, just hyper obsessive and all of these things. And now, the term is the clue is in the word neuro, isn't it? Like, it
yeah,
was previously called neurotic, and that was a catch-all phrase. Now it's neurodiverse. And it
exactly.
didn't even dawn on me until people started saying it. And then I looked at relationships I've had with people,
Mm.
the way that I conduct myself. So how has it helped you then since kind of having this realization? It's probably helped you make sense of a lot of things in your past. And how does it help you moving forward in terms of organizing yourself and getting peace of mind? I think like getting some actual clarity of mind and being able to focus and being able to get things done. Has it helped you since you've been
Well,
diagnosed?
funny that you should say focus. I'm sorry that my eyes were darting all over the screen a second ago. I was literally trying to turn my WhatsApp notifications off so that nothing would ping on the screen. I'm so sorry. But I find knowing just in general kind of helps you sort of make sense of your own behaviors. And I also take medication, which I find massively helps. It really keeps me focused, other than literally 30 seconds ago. I think it is just sort of it's good to know, I think, as well. And work have been really good about because I've always been very choppy changey with my tasks. I love to do several thousand tasks all at once. You probably relate to that as well. It's nice to keep your
Massively.
just and it's nice to have a million things to do or completely nothing and then nothing gets done. And I found that knowing that I had ADHD and then being able to tell work and then saying, okay, well, how can we help you align your tasks? And really, I didn't massively need help aligning my tasks so much as I needed to make my own kind of decisions on how I get things done, and that's really helped. And yeah, I think just I mean, I do swear by medication, I'll be honest. I think that really that's made a huge difference.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
in true ADHD form, I've actually forgotten what the question was.
Well, no, it's how it's helped you since having like being diagnosed is how it's helped you. And the one
Yeah.
thing that makes me question whether I have or not is my ability to do interviews. So
Mm,
they say that one of the most, a very, very popular trait with ADHD is not being able to listen and butting in and getting impatient.
I
But
do
I've
that all
trained
the time.
myself. I love interviewing because it means I can't go off track. Or if I do, I have to bring
Mm,
myself back on track. And doing them on camera is even more important that
yeah.
I am literally in this very moment. I can't think, even though I have thought about, I wonder what I'm having for tea tonight. What have I got to do later? But they're really forced to the back of the head a lot more than they
Yeah.
would be in a normal sense. And again, it's a form of masking. The interviewer,
Mm,
Dave, isn't the regular, normal, slightly stressed out, slightly grumpy, curmudgeony, this is all shit, Dave, which is the actual real Dave, which I don't really show very much online or anything like that. But when it's like it is the ultimate masking, really, in a way, because I have to be completely focused and in the moment. But I love the fact that like whenever a topic comes up like this, wasn't this wasn't in our discussion points. I didn't have
yeah.
this, didn't know this about you, but it's something really fascinating, and I think it's something that so many people are going to be able to relate to in that type of
Yeah.
way, really, I think.
I
And
have
I
no
think like the type
big.
of music that we've connected through and the type of music that you're best known for, I think
Mm,
drum and bass and fast paced, I would
yeah.
say extreme, but I don't think drum and bass is extreme anymore, and I don't think it's rebellious like it used to be. But certainly the high tech nerdiness of production,
Yeah.
the tempo of it, the ferocity and passion that fans have for it, and the
Mm,
whole culture surrounding it attracts a certain type of person. And I think that a
sure.
lot of them are neurodiverse, really, in that way, anyway.
100%. I completely agree with you. I also want to pick up on that point that you made about sort of interviewer Dave versus regular curmudgeonly Dave. I think that, and I'm a big interrupter and I have to really work on it. It's something I have to really think about constantly. However, I think in an interview, it's great because we're just having a chat and it's so nice to just be like, hey, that thing. Oh, hey, that thing. It's
Yeah.
great. It makes for such good conversation.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
it's not
I
one
think
way
interrupt
or
the
anything like that, and it stops. Like the ultimate compliment for me with an interview, especially people who've not been interviewed very much before, is like,
way.
oh, that was all right. That wasn't. I didn't feel like under pressure or anything. That was
Yeah.
just a nice chat, and it's why I do approvals. Like it's not what a journalist should really do. And in fact, some of your colleagues at DJ Mag absolutely hate the fact that I do that sometimes. Because
Okay.
it's pure journalism. It's supposed to be pure journalism. It's like, well,
Yeah.
it's not though, not when I'm just having such a random chat. You can get any, like not that I'm trying to get anything out of a conversation, but stuff gets said a lot
Mm,
more informally when I'm chatting like this, and it's supposed to be an
yeah.
interview. It's like you deserve to hear this back before it goes out to the public, because I'm not here like kind of holding you over like kind of global politics or something really scary
Yeah.
and horrible is going on in the world. This is a safe space. Like music remains a safe space, certainly for me, where we don't have to be worried about the pressures of the world and stuff like that, and we can kind of bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, really. So, have you noticed then, since kind of having a diagnosis of ADHD, understanding more about yourself, coming
Mm.
back to relationships, times when you've really badly masked and you didn't even realize that you were masking?
I think so. I do remember a time, it's probably 2 years ago. I was in a really lovely relationship at the time, actually. But I remember going over to his house and I was all in a big, I guess, ADHD energetic mood. And he was very much so not. And one of the first things he said when I walked through the door was, "Oh, you're on a very different vibe to me at the minute." And I thought, "Oh," and I suddenly felt myself shrinking down
Oh, that's a
into
horrible thing, and you feel
being,
really
oh,
self-aware then, isn't it? And just
exactly,
like,
and really self-conscious, and then having to sort of be, I guess, quieter and more chilled and dull, and like, I don't know, I sort of thought, well, that's not nice for me. I don't really want to dull my own shine, and I also don't want to resent you for dulling my shine. So I think, but also at the time, I didn't know I had ADHD. I just thought I was a little bit quirky. So,
yeah.
so I guess knowing now, it makes a difference in terms of, oh, I know what sort of vibe I'm on this day or that day, or maybe it's something you can sort of pre-warn your partner with. But at the same time, you'd also kind of hope that that person wouldn't be hugely turned off by your eccentricities, let's say.
No,
Yeah.
no. And I think again, going back to that whole kind of beauty of the best relationships is when someone can, but you can pull each other out of a fog.
Mm,
And you might be in a bit of a kind of lethargic, kind of bit of a flat mood, and then your other half comes in, and they're a ball of energy, and it
mm,
lifts you up. That's how it should be. And sometimes you do kind of have to match in the middle, and sometimes, yeah, I think. But
yeah.
if you're ever told that oh, we're on a different vibe like that, for me, that would just stick with me. Then like, it's
Mm,
just like,
yeah.
oh, right, okay.
Well, I still
Cheers for
remember it
putting an
too.
edge
Like,
on the day. Like, thank you.
yeah, it did sort of make me feel like, oh no, am I going to constantly have to shrink myself for somebody? I
Yeah.
don't have to do that for anybody. You shouldn't have to,
No.
So yeah, not ideal.
Never. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about your job now at DJ Mag. For anybody who's watching and only knows you as a singer and stuff, like you're involved in the industry as well. And like magazines are the reason why I'm here today. If I look around this little space that I have here, it's more magazines than there is anything else, even records. I love
Wow.
magazines and stuff. But how did you end up working at DJ Mag, and how, big up the team and the culture there? Because DJ Mag are a huge reason why I'm here as well.
Oh, well, that's lovely. We are obviously incredibly grateful for you. You've been a stalwart for us, and we love that about you. Actually, this is probably one of my favorite stories to tell how I got my job at DJ Mag, because I just finished my music degree, and or I was actually just finishing, I think. And I don't remember how this came up, but maybe it was Facebook. Something came up on the internet, and I, obviously being a huge Goldie fan, I saw that Goldie was doing a talk at DJ Mag, and this was back in the day when DJ Mag did like long video content around interviews. And obviously, if anyone knows Goldie, they know that he can chat.
We can chat.
Exactly. So I went down, and it was just a free entry thing. You signed up, whatever. I went down. This was when the office was back in Old Street, if anyone knows. And Carl Loban, editor, interviewed Goldie. It was, as I said, a really long but very interesting chat. And as Goldie was talking, he mentioned Adam Betts, who plays drums for him live. But also, Adam Betts taught me at uni.
Oh,
So I was
wow.
like, I knew that Adam had played drums for Goldie. So I was like, that's dope. I'm going to chat to Goldie later. I feel like I should have a chinwag, introduce myself, maybe offer up some vocals. Why not? You don't ask, don't get. So Carl had interviewed Goldie, but another guy called Carl was also Goldie's manager. So as I'm outside
Oh,
and
I
Goldie's
know Carl.
outside,
Carl got me my job at AEI with UKF and Drum and Bass Arena. He rang me up one day when I was working at a Curry magazine because I'd met them before. I don't know what
yeah,
Carl's doing now. He comes in and out of my life, and usually, right, mate, I've got some jobs for you. I've got some jobs for you. But I know Carl pretty well, like a proper old school London geezer, really, isn't he?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's
So
okay.
yes, I
Well,
remember when he was managing Goldie. He managed him for
yeah.
quite some time, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, literally by virtue of the fact that they were both called Carl. So as I'm speaking to Goldie, I sort of was saying, oh, I'd love to do some tracks if you've got any, producers, whatever. And he said, go and speak to Carl, my manager. So I go over and both Carls are stood there. So I'm like, hey, Carl. And obviously they both look up. And I spoke to Carl manager and I said, vocals, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, well, while I'm here, I'll speak to Carl, editor, and I'll just say, do you have any jobs? I'm about to finish uni. So he took my email address and literally, I can't even remember, a week, 2 weeks later, he emailed me saying, oh, you can do an internship if you like. So I literally did, I think I did 3 days one week and then a couple of days the next week. Loved it, had an absolutely great time. And then a few months later, then got a job at DJ Mag.
Brilliant.
And then my second favorite story to then tell, because
How was that then, though? Because, right, if that sounds, I can compare. I have a really comparable story with how
Mm.
when I got my
Ooh,
job at IDJ and I did work experience, and they were saying at the time, we need another member of staff. It's great having somebody helping us here. I was like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And there was about 3 months. They were like, well, we'll call you up for an interview at some point when we're ready. And there was
yeah,
those 3 months where I had to go back to driving a van, and it was the pits because I'd seen what life was like working in that culture. It was
uh,
like finally an office that I know I can get along with people. I know I
yeah.
actually fit there, feel welcome there. This is I've never had this before. And then going back to my van driving job, and that 3 months was awful. And then when I finally did get the job, it was like like, but that period in between, what was it like for you, in between the internship and getting the job?
That's actually a really good question. And funnily enough, I do remember my lovely friend Ted, because I was still looking for work after that. I thought, well, I can't be jobless in this period. I may as well, be doing something. And my friend Ted said, oh, you can work at my company. But I currently, I think it was something insurance related. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. But I went for this interview and I got the job, but I hated the interview process so much. It was like a group interview that I hadn't been told about, by the way. I wasn't a
Oh,
fan of that. I don't bloody didn't like surprises in that respect. Um, but they'd given me the job, but by after like this 4 hour unnecessary interview, I was so annoyed at the process that when they did offer me the job, I actually said, oh yeah, actually I don't want it. I'm gonna wait and see if DJ Mag actually want to hire me full time. And I'm so glad that I even said that and was like, actually, I'm gonna put it
yeah.
all on a limb because I don't want this and I do want this. And then I literally 5 minutes later got my job at DJ Mag, which
Oh
was great.
wow, brilliant. Go
And then I
on,
have to
that's
tell you my
amazing.
second favorite story is that I didn't go to my graduation at uni because I was streaming Armin van Buuren at a Shire at the time. I just like, and then all my mates were texting me
Oh
going, "Where are you?" And
wow.
I was like, "I'm on top of the tower filming Armin van Buuren. It's bloody great here." And I'm really glad I didn't go to my graduation because it sounded shit.
Yeah, all that kind of pomp and just unnecessary stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, plus you
totally,
have to
totally.
hire the gown. No,
Yeah.
not for me.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Go on, brilliant. And
Yes,
then
it worked
so
out a
how
bit.
long ago was that then? How long have you been at DJ Mag?
That was 7.5 years ago. So we're coming up to 8 years. Yeah. I
Wow,
still
that's
love it. It's such
brilliant.
a great place to work. Anyone, obviously, you've seen the environment is great. Plus, speaking of neurodiversity, it really does lend itself well to that kind of job. A few of us are neurodiverse, and it's fabulous. It marries well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as I was saying to you before, I think it was before I pressed record. I can't quite remember, but oh no, was it? I'm confused now, but I'm going to say it again anyway.
Yeah, do.
I didn't quite appreciate how much that whole process of making magazines fitted how I work and how my brain works and what
Yeah,
turns me on and inspires me creatively. And it was having a very rigid process. You can't get out of deadline, and deadline weeks were always like, I get weird, dark goosebumps thinking about deadline weeks, that pressure and that anxiety, but also the
yeah,
thrill. And sometimes we'd be in the office till 2 in the morning, and it was like early 2000s. There's still quite a lot of cultures which just wouldn't be appropriate now, like too much
mm,
booze and stuff like
yeah,
that. Quite a lot of stuff which doesn't normally happen in the workplace anymore did kind of
yeah,
happen a little bit more back then,
yeah,
but the intensity of it and then getting it back and almost being like, yeah, cool, we got an issue out, and then we're already deep into the next one and the next one,
yeah,
and having that kind of that ability to have, like, the same routine but always different inputs, so you could
yeah,
always, it was always really, there was something new, something fresh, and like the big
yeah,
post bags full of CDs and records and the arguments, like just full on all out arguments over who should be on the cover, who we should be, or if an advert gets sold, we've got to drop drop a feature. Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be mine? Is it going to be Matt's? Is it going to be Russ's? Is it going to be? And these, like, you know, like that was the only time I've ever enjoyed working in an office and
Oh
working with
wow,
real
yeah.
humans.
And equally, you saying like the pressure, enjoying the pressure. People with ADHD do really enjoy a good bit of like. I really love a solid deadline. I will
Yeah,
always meet the deadline. If I'm told that
definitely.
exact date and time, let's go.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
that's probably what
I've
you really
seen a
love.
clip. I've seen a clip on social media with, I hope it's an expert, but they were saying like being ADHD people are self-medicating by leaving things to the last minute because it's the anxiety and it's the
Yeah,
same as
the
the
drive.
medication, which gives you that kind of adrenaline essentially, which helps you focus. And I think of everything, all of the projects that I've got, you almost leave it to the last minute because then
Yeah,
that's like, right, suddenly I know exactly what I need to do. Now I've got to do it in less time than is possible.
and then
But
you
that
can
gives you
focus
that buzz.
suddenly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And then the dopamine reward from then having done it is through the roof.
What's coming up next for you? Are you doing much writing and stuff? Or are you busy focused on your career at DJ Mag? Where are you at with everything?
I will say, so I've taken, I mean, it's hard to word really, but I've always sort of, we basically just lost someone at DJ Mag. So I'm, I'm doing slightly more than I was because I was already sort of like running HQ, alongside him. He was the glue, and I was sort of like just around doing all the bits. And now that he's gone, I'm obviously doing more bits. So I am spending a lot more time focusing on that. Um, I think I've probably also been a little bit lazy on the writing side. However, nominees reached back out to reached suddenly sound like a really wrong word, like I should have said wretched or something. He's wretched, like the past tense of reach. He's reached out to
Roach?
me
He
again.
roach.
He wrote back out to me about this song that we made ages ago. But so we're now working on that again, sort of finalize, because obviously things just get, left by the wayside, don't they? And so I've sort of re-recorded some bits for that, and then some other producers as well. We've kind of like just gone over old songs that maybe this needs a bit of work, because obviously after you've left something for a few years, it starts to sound different. You start thinking, oh, actually, this could be like this. This could be. You get new ideas, don't you? So sort of
Yeah.
just reworking old things to then be released this year. I should be working on some new bits as well. But again, I've sort of I like to do one thing at a time in that respect. I wanted to sort of like get these old ones ticked off for all the
Yeah.
dopamine. I wanted to get those ones. Okay, these are done now. I can work on new things. So we'll see what happens with those as well. So yeah, I guess just we'll see.
This is kind of where we're wrapping up, is that beauty that you don't know of what, like something that you've done, and it could be years and years and years ago, like the fact that, we've kind of met over the years and stuff. We didn't know that I'd be releasing your music and that we'd be
Yeah.
doing this interview and stuff. And like having a recording, once you put some vocals down, you might need to redo them or revisit them and add another context. But all of this stuff, like we're in a very immediate world where everything has to happen and people want instant kind of success or gratification.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff takes so much longer than you ever
Mm.
imagine it to. And these little gifts from yourself, like to have like nominate call you back on something that you probably would have forgotten about, like, or like, oh yeah, well, that kind of fell down to the wayside, or that didn't work out, to suddenly come back, it suddenly throws this whole other curveball, and it's very much like Lakeway's album has been in the process for 3 4 years, like this particular track or any of these things. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
really nice kind of message to finish on, is that everything takes way longer than you ever expected to, and just because stuff isn't happening right at this moment doesn't mean to say that
It
tomorrow
won't.
or next year or in 5 years time something amazing is going to happen as a result of the creative seeds that you're sowing. And I think that's so
Exactly.
lush.
That, and again, another great analogy. These are so good. It's true.
This has been
Entirely.
really cool. I don't think I've asked you any of the questions that I've sent over last night
That's
at
fine.
all.
Who
But
cares? We've had a great
yeah,
chat.
yeah, a chat about love, ADHD, and just the
Blue.
the endurance of life, the longevity of
Mm,
creativity.
yeah.
Brilliant. Cool. Becca, it's been amazing. I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. It's been so cool to catch up, and I'm really looking forward to releasing this music. And I will speak to you again really, really soon.
It has been lovely chatting to you. And yeah, I can't wait for the single to come out.
Brilliant. Awesome.